Hey y'all, it's your girl, Coach Crystal. Welcome to Wisdom Wednesday. And I know I might be a little different background tonight, but it's still the same context, still the same podcast. I'm here to welcome you into our community and give you a little bit of a sneak peek into the people who inspire me, who help me, who grow me. And tonight we have an amazing guest, Dr. Mia Cowen, who's going to talk to us about everlasting intimacy. But I just want to welcome you to Wisdom Wednesday the same way that we open up each and every activity at Steps and Stages with a mantra that just says a lot of things happen before this, and I guarantee a lot of things are going to happen after this, but I promise to be here with you now. Please be here with me now. Now, if you've been following this platform, especially Wisdom Wednesday, you know for the past few weeks we've been talking a little bit about love, a little bit about relationships, a little bit about everything, transformation. And so to have Dr. Mia with us tonight is going to be a treat because we're really going to think deeply about like not even just like what does it mean to be intimate, but like what does it mean to have everlasting intimacy? For some of you who might be in long-term relationships, marriages, partnerships, you're going to want to tune in and you might want to share this over to a friend because I, I'm ready to learn, y'all. I hope you're ready to learn. So without any further ado, let's bring Dr. Mia on. Dr. Mia, welcome, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Listen, I'm excited. I'm so glad that you said yes. I mean, Southern girls rule the world, so we just gonna put that out there real quick, just in case people get distracted by our accents tonight. Dr. Mia, in your own words, tell people who you are and what you do.
I am Dr. Mia, the B3 specialist. That's beauty, balance, and belief. And I help men and women suffering with weight gain, fatigue, and sexual dissatisfaction improve their quality of life through total wellness at Nivella Wellness Center in Birmingham, Alabama.
Birmingham, Alabama. Y'all, listen, if you need to catch a plane, train, automobile, let's get it together. Now, here's what I think is interesting. You did not say sexual dysfunction, right? You used a very specific word. What you use dissatisfaction.
Dissatisfaction. So
Right.
meaning it's not where you want it. And I don't like to term it negatively because things do change as we age and mature.
Uh-huh.
So as we age and mature, some people start noticing some changes to their body. And so I call it dissatisfaction because we can fix it.
Aha. Okay. Dr. Mia, we're gonna jump right in, right? Because people think you can't fix it.
We can fix it, girl, for men and women.
Okay. One, people think that the sex life that they have had, the intimate life that they've had with either their long-term partner or just their experiences in the past are how it's going to always be, right? When
No.
when clients come to you, what's the beginning? How do we start retelling the story?
So I guess most of my ladies come first since I'm a gynecologist, even though
Mm-hmm.
I do take care of men now.
Mm-hmm.
And so usually when my ladies come, it has a lot to do with their hormones changing. So that can be in the late 30s, early 40s, when testosterone starts to decline. A lot of women notice that they lose interest in having intimacy. And I'm gonna say the right word since I know we're on Facebook. I don't want us to.
Oh, okay, okay, yes, yes.
Okay.
Being
So
intimate.
yeah, so a lot of women notice that they just don't want to be intimate anymore. It's not that they don't love their partner anymore.
Uh-huh.
It's not that something's going on with their relationship, but a lot of it has to do with the changes in hormones. So as we age and mature, the first hormone to decline is testosterone.
Okay.
And I call testosterone the forgotten female hormone and
Right.
the anti-aging hormone.
Mhm.
Because when your testosterone levels are low, it makes you feel old because you can start noticing a decrease in libido. You can notice a decrease in the enjoyment of intimacy. So the big
Mhm.
O.
Mhm. Mhm.
You can
Mhm.
notice problems with sleep. You can notice night sweats. You can notice fatigue. So you're just tired all the time. You're having joint
Wow.
pain. You're gaining weight, especially in the belly.
Uh-huh.
Mind fog, like you just can't remember. You can't focus as much as you used to. And then
Uh-huh.
mood changes. So things that didn't bother you before now really get on your nerves. So irritability. Sometimes if you have experienced depression or anxiety in the past, it can worsen, or you can start experiencing it for the first time when your hormones start to decline.
Wow. Okay, so we've been hearing about hormone shifts in a lot of different places, right? People think that they're trying to find their hormone balance for their weight and their intimacy and their mood regulation. So when patients come to you, when clients come to you, Dr. Mia, and you determine like, okay, here's what they're complaining about. The testosterone is a part of it. And then how do people shift that?
So first, I'd get blood work, get a
Okay.
full history.
Mhm.
The good news is with testosterone, everybody qualifies, especially for the plant-based bioidentical hormone therapy. So,
Uh-huh.
for some hormone replacement therapy, women can't do that if they've had a history of breast cancer or blood clot.
Okay.
Testosterone, everyone qualifies for testosterone. So I get the blood work. The thing about blood work for women is that because testosterone hasn't been studied as much in women, the parameters are a little off. So to me, I don't treat numbers. I treat
Uh-huh.
signs and symptoms. So if
Mm,
somebody's having all of these signs and symptoms and their number says that it's normal on the scale, it's not normal for them because they wouldn't be having these signs and symptoms.
right.
So,
Right.
so I pay attention to the symptoms. I still look at the number to help me control dosing. And,
Uh-huh.
and the ways that we can replace it would be with the natural plant-based bioidentical hormone therapy that comes in a pellet form and a cream form. And it's not a lot you can do to naturally increase testosterone, but there are some supplements out there. One of the supplements on my line would be, I call it Total T, I think, but
Uh-huh.
it has uricoma, which is a tree from Asia. And so
Okay.
that can naturally increase your testosterone levels. So for my younger patients who may be on birth control and they notice a decrease in their libido, though that will help them. But for my patients who are my age in their late 30s,
Mhm.
late 40s, 50s, 60s, they tend to need to replace the testosterone.
Okay. Now you brought up an interesting term here, right? Especially because you are a doctor, right? And a lot of people who specialize in things often do just look at the data. And you're saying, well, normal is not normal for everybody, right?
Exactly.
What are people comparing themselves to when they come to you and they want to be normal again?
I think to their old selves, but a lot of times they're comparing themselves to people their age, and so they
Mm-hmm.
assume that because when their mom started to age and their grandparents started to age, they started sleeping in separate bedrooms. They didn't talk about, they weren't being intimate anymore. They
Mm-hmm.
talked about how it wasn't important. So some people tend to feel that that's just the normal way of life. As you
Yeah.
age and mature, intimacy drops off. Physical
Right.
intimacy
Right.
specifically drops
Right.
off. And so I like to remind people that women who are intimate at least a couple times a week live about 5 years longer than women who don't. And when I'm talking about it, 5 years. So it
Wow.
actually improves your wellness and it improves your health because
Wow.
when you are intimate, whether that's alone or with the partner,
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
if you are experiencing the big O and the pleasure from physical intimacy, it increases endorphins that you can't get anywhere else and it improves your health. For,
Okay.
for men, we even say that it decreases the risk of recurrence of a heart attack by having regular physical intimacy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. 5 years.
5 years, you can live longer, 5 years longer if you just, engage in intimacy regularly, whether that's with your partner or whether that's
Wow.
without a partner.
Are you-
God gave us the gift of being able to do it. Won't he do it? Won't
Well,
he?
okay, okay. Let's get people together here, right? Because specifically, we're talking about physical intimacy, but where does this start, right? When we talk about big picture intimacy, the big I and the big O, where do we start? Where are people missing the bridge?
Oh, that's a great question, Coach. So one, I would say it starts with emotional intimacy,
Mm-hmm.
spiritual intimacy,
Yeah.
recreational intimacy, and intellectual intimacy. So I think if we're working on all of those things, the physical intimacy becomes more natural.
Okay. Okay. Let's break it down for people, Dr. Mia. Let's just give some examples.
So
Okay.
emotional intimacy,
Okay.
having deep conversations,
Okay.
a lot of women as we mature in age, is not just about physical intimacy.
Uh-huh.
We want to talk, we want to have conversation, we want to get to know you. Even
Yeah.
in a long-term relationship, there are things that my husband doesn't know about me because we just hadn't gotten to it. But actually
Uh-huh.
taking the time to connect emotionally and share
Mm-hmm.
some of those intimate details of your life that your partner may not have known otherwise. So taking the time to communicate.
Okay. Okay. So let's just break. I just want to make sure that people are hearing you, right? Because we jump to big questions, right? We've seen this happen, especially on relationship platforms and dating platforms. Now, you think you have the set number of questions that you're supposed to ask, right? You want to ask all the what's your love language, how about like all those little kind of transactional questions. but transaction and transformation are very different. And I think you're talking about something different. So, on an emotional level, you've been married how many years, Dr. Mia?
Since 2004.
Okay, right? And we're talking about you've been with a man for almost 20 years, right?
Oh, yeah, and with him for over 24 years.
Yeah, and there's things he doesn't know about you.
There are things that he still doesn't know. And you know how we get to know each other better is through recreational intimacy. So
Uh-huh.
doing
Okay.
fun things together,
Mhm,
traveling together,
mhm,
me connecting with him and figuring out what he enjoys, talking about it, asking those questions about things that may not be of great interest to me,
mhm.
intellectual intimacy,
Right, right.
but acting interested. I'm just saying.
Uh-huh.
But
Talking about golf. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
exactly.
Mhm.
But intellectual intimacy. So we work together.
Yeah.
So we're always learning together. We're in different masterminds together. So, but
Yep.
I still think that that brings us together closer emotionally because we are always doing other things together that aren't necessarily just focused on the physical component.
Yeah, yeah. Now, when you're talking about intellectual intimacy, right? Because we sometimes think that people's work lives, right, are off limits or like how they do it. But the fact that y'all work together, how has that either kind of you've had to make some adjustments, or how has that infused your intimacy, or taken away? What has that calculation been like?
Well, I would say it's sexy to realize how smart my husband is. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
before he had his own business, I had mine, and I knew that he did well with his business. But when we came together, now we think about things together. We have to communicate more. We
Mhm.
have to learn how to communicate more effectively so that we don't offend the people around us because we do have one of those bickering relationships. So we have to we have to make sure that we aren't offending others, but it's taught us to also set the example for the
Yeah.
people who were our team. So it teaches us to communicate more effectively. So I think that has just brought us closer together. We solve problems together, and
Mhm.
then we've learned to respect each other's opinions more, even though we disagree. We appreciate the different perspectives.
Right, right, right. Okay, so this is giving you a fuller spectrum of even understanding all the parts.
Yeah, yeah, and
Mhm.
understanding him more emotionally just about the way that he thinks about even business stuff and the
Right,
way he communicates that.
right, right. I mean, okay, so big picture, right? If I'm hearing you correctly, and listen, y'all, this is Dr. Mia's. She's the expert here. I do not have a husband. Okay, I have several other assets. A husband is not one of them, right? So we're gonna go to the doctor on this one. So when you say that, what it makes me think about is if you've been with someone for over 20 years, right? Over 24 years, and then you're thinking about going into a different type of relationship, simultaneously keeping the foundation of the love relationship, then you're building and excavating simultaneously.
Exactly. And so it makes you have to really focus on not always talking about work too.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
making sure you're still getting that spiritual intimacy, intellectual, recreational,
Uh-huh.
all of those other things so that you can, eventually get to the physical intimacy that keeps us all healthy and happy.
Right, and living 5 years longer.
Yes,
Now, you know what I also hear, Dr. Mia, is that when you're dealing with that level of intimacy in so many different areas, there is a huge possibility for deep vulnerability here.
definitely. And
Right?
as we age and mature in the bedroom, you can become more vulnerable because your body does change. Things don't work the way that they used to.
Mhm.
Those are very difficult conversations to have. It's
Yeah.
difficult for a woman to tell her significant other that things aren't working as well, with him for
Hmm.
her and
Yeah.
vice versa. So
Yeah.
that's a level 5 kind of communication thing. So
Yeah.
again, it brings you closer together, but always working on that emotional intimacy, which includes a huge component of good communication,
Hmm.
allows you to experience everlasting intimacy because you can have those conversations when things start to change.
And so, let's jump over to, you mentioned spiritual intimacy before. And so, what I have also heard many times from different people, right, in different camps, right, is that intimacy, if it's not spiritual, you're missing something. I mean, right? You've heard this too, right?
Yeah, I mean, and I
We
think
both country girls. We heard it.
yeah, and yeah, I think the spiritual part, like spiritual intimacy, where you maybe we, like me and Joseph both believe in God and Jesus Christ, and
Uh-huh.
we pray together, we meditate together, we believe, we have faith together, we remind each other of the word. I think that part of spiritual intimacy, but I do think that physical intimacy still has that component of spiritual intimacy, which can make physical intimacy so much better. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people look at it like tantric, you know,
Uh-huh. Yep.
so like really connecting,
Yep.
really feeling the energy and
Yep.
not always just going straight to everybody trying to get their big O, but to working on connecting and pleasing your partner.
Yes, yes. Now listen, Dr. Mia, you and I've had this conversation. I've been out of the game for a while, okay? But I do remember, okay, when I was in a very long term relationship, the research, right, about each other and about ways to stay connected, right? So this tantric idea that you're thinking about, that you're talking about, right? I just for the people out there, if you don't know what it is, you can Google it, right? But what we're really saying is, how do you keep curious about your partner over time, where what we might call as foreplay could last for a week? And it could be these
Exactly.
little gestures of addressing all these areas of intimacy you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and yeah, and like you said, foreplay is more than just the moment before, but it's the things that happen well before, like helping with dinner and cleaning up the kitchen. I
Okay.
mean, that's going to increase physical intimacy.
Okay.
I mean,
She give it. These are secrets, y'all. Listen. If you're out there and you're trying to think about everlasting intimacy, also think about filling in the gaps.
that's right. And then taking care of your body, because
Yeah.
your body is not going to perform the same way if you're not taking care of your body. So I always go back to total wellness.
Mm-hmm.
So prevention and screening, going to the doctor, having your normal screenings,
Yeah.
doing the prevention of eating healthy,
Yep.
exercising, preventing disease.
Yeah.
Because the more disease we have, it affects intimacy, because intimacy is most affected for both men and women by blood flow. So if
Ah.
you have heart disease and that decreases blood flow, for women, that will be dryness. For
Mm-hmm.
men, that will be difficulty having an erection.
Yeah.
The same thing for high cholesterol, uncontrolled diabetes, obesity. All of those things are going to change how you experience intimacy. So
Mm-hmm.
exercising, eating healthy, doing Pilates. I know that's one of your favorite.
You
Yoga,
know, I prefer Jaratonis, but I'll get into some Pilates. Yeah.
that's above my head. What's that, honey?
Well, you know what? We're not even gonna get into the eggs. We're not going. You know what I mean? So many things we could talk about it. We might get banned for, but this is what I'm saying. You have to know your body.
That's right. And you may have to read books.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody taught us about intimacy. Like, most people experience intimacy the ways that they have in the past. So whoever that they, may have been with first, whoever
Right.
they've been with the most. But I had to do some reading because I'm from Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
People are not talking about the right way to have intercourse. And I have a patient who is from Africa.
Yeah.
And when women get married where she's from, they actually have a party. And a part of the party is showing them how to use their bodies to make sure that they pleasure themselves as well as their husband. So somebody actually teaches them the different things that they can do with their body.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's ever taught us, and
No.
porn does not do it. That's
No.
unrealistic.
It's
But
unrealistic.
reading
Yes.
some books, there are some great books. Like, one is called The Orgasm Prescription for Women, and
Mm-hmm.
just learning your body and being open to reading about it and learning about it. I think that's going to be key.
Yes, yes. Being open, because I think there's a lot of pride behind it. There's
Yeah.
pride, there's shame, and then
Mhm.
there's this kind of like covering of like, well, I shouldn't be talking about it because I shouldn't be doing it. And if I
Right.
ask a question, and that makes me look guilty, and all these things that we get taught from being young women, especially young Black Southern women.
Right.
Right.
Right. Good old
Because
Christian women.
because we get told, all the things we get told, well, they want a this in the street, but this in the big, right. So you can't be looking like that. You can't be acting like that. You can't be
Right.
talking like that. Right.
And then our whole lives we're taught what not to do, that is bad. They even teach us about the woman's body as being smelly,
Yeah.
Not talk, the actual organ of the V is never
Mm-hmm.
talked about in a positive manner.
Mm-hmm.
The look of it, the
Yeah.
smell of it, all of those things. So you come with all of these preconceived things that you've learned over
Right.
time. And so you go and then all of a sudden you get married and you're supposed to just start thinking about it totally differently and drop all your guilt and just
Yeah.
go all in. And that's not
It,
how it works. So I think it
it,
does matter how we talk to our children
yeah.
about intimacy. I let my daughter know that it's one of the most beautiful things in the world. It's a true gift from God to
Mm-hmm.
experience that when you're doing it in the right way. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
With somebody that you love. But I changed the conversation with her than the conversation that I had growing up.
Right. Right. Because what we talked about before, right? Like it is a spiritual act.
Yes.
Right? There's no way. I mean, and we're gonna talk from the woman's perspective for a second, then we're gonna get into what you do with men and the whole thing. But from a woman's perspective, right? The taking in of energy, right? It's not an external thing. Like you're receiving so much of another person's energy, and if that person hasn't told you who they are, if you don't know on a deeper level what they do or who they are, like what they're feeling on the inside, then you end up with a bunch of you walk around with a bunch of mess you can't get rid of. You're like, why do I feel like this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
And the guilt and all of that changes the whole experience.
Exactly, exactly. Okay, so we're biased. We are women, okay? But Mi Bella Wellness also serves men.
That's right.
Okay,
Right.
tell us what we're doing for the men.
So the same thing for men. So I would say for both, there are some great options out there. So men can do the testosterone replacement with the plant-based bioidentical hormone pellets. It's safe, it's effective, it's going to prevent disease, and it's also going to help you to age better, and it's going to help with libido. For
Right.
men and women, as we age, even if your hormones are balanced, the body does change, the blood flow does decrease. So there's some wonderful procedures out there for women who may be having pain with intercourse or dryness, and the same for men who
Mm-hmm.
can't maintain an erection. It becomes softer as they age. They can't maintain it long enough for them to even have the full big O. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so we can't assume that men always have the big O, just like some women may not experience it as much as men age with the change in blood flow. They may not actually have the big O, but
Mm-hmm.
there are treatment options out there that help with men and women that are non-invasive. It's not a major surgery, and many of them you may have to do more than one procedure. But for women, those procedures can increase lubrication. It can tighten. It can help with leakage of urine. It can
Mm-hmm.
help with the big O, the intensity, the frequency, and the same for men. Those procedures can help them have a harder erection. Sometimes they feel like there's growth, but they're really just going back to when they were young and they had good blood flow, because over time, everything changes gradually. You know
Uh-huh.
what I mean?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So it allows them to continue to enjoy, to be able to please their partner, to maintain an erection for good, healthy intimacy.
Okay. Okay, listen, I just want everybody out there to really just hear us, right? Because these five types of intimacy that Dr. Mia are talking about are integral to any type of communication.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, and a lot of times we're talking about kind of intimate relationships and partnerships, but this level of curiosity, this level of communication, this level of action, this level of care has to be present in our relationship with ourselves and with other people.
That's right.
Now, tell us, Dr. Me, a little bit. I know a little bit about the pellet therapy. Like, tell us a little bit about what that looks like in case people are curious.
So the pellets were really the first hormones in the United States, made from a plant. Look just like the hormones your body produces when you're much younger. You just don't
Mm-hmm.
produce enough of it. So replacing it, we put it in the hip. It's based specifically for each individual. So it's based on weight, it's based on activity, it's based on lab work, it's based on history of activity.
Okay.
And what works for me, even though we may be the same size, the same weight, it may be totally different for you because you're a dancer and you have way more muscle. So you're going to burn it faster. So
And we have different normals.
and we have different normals. So
Yeah.
it's customized to that person. The goal is to get rid of all the negative symptoms like the fatigue, the joint pain, the decreased libido. Once we get rid of all those symptoms, we want to keep it at the area where we're not causing negative side effects either. So it's a very thin line. So I think it's very important to go to somebody who has hormone training, and they understand how to manipulate your hormones to feel good and customize that treatment specifically for each person.
Okay. I think you know this, Dr. Mia, but right on this platform in my practice, we're always talking about vision, right? And
Yes.
so what I really want people to take from, especially from hearing you tonight, is thinking about when they say they want a relationship, or they say they want this, or they say they want that, what are they really asking for? And are they willing to take these next steps to get to the thing they would really love? Right? Because many people find love maybe late in life, and then this part of their intimate life doesn't feel like it's what they wanted, and then they just fall flat. They don't take the next step to try to
Right.
figure it out, to work harder. Right?
Right.
So when we're talking about this bigger vision, I just want people to be clear that there is always a better question, and that there is always another option to get the full fulfillment of the intimate life you would love. Right?
Yeah, I agree.
So
I
when couples come to you, what's the first conversation?
Usually when they come to me, it's because of symptoms. So we kind of
Okay.
start out focusing on that because,
Hmm.
again, communicating about intimacy is a very sensitive topic for a
Yeah.
lot of people.
Hmm.
For men, it has a big ego thing, and even for women, a lot
Yeah.
of women will say that there's no difference from when they're 45 and when they were 25, and that's just not true. It's just not. I'm a gynecologist. Things change, the body changes. So yeah, I think that making sure that we're communicating. What was that? I'm sorry. Ask me that question one more time.
Yeah, no, no. When they first come to you, what's the
Okay,
conversation?
so yeah, so
Simple.
I
Yeah.
figure out their past medical history,
Hmm.
get their lab work, figure out what the issues are, decide whether it's something with actual function or if it's something with hormone balance.
Okay.
And
Hmm.
many times they need both. So a
Yeah.
lot sometimes with my younger women and men, just treating the hormone balance helps them with everything. But
Hmm.
as they age and mature, they may notice that the function is changing. And so that's when we add those intimacy services. But for everybody, it still always goes back to total wellness, to living a life of wellness, being healthy, doing your prevention and screening, and living a lifestyle that will allow you to experience everlasting intimacy.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just imagining, right? Some of this is very similar to the conversations that people have in fertility offices,
Oh yeah.
right? Because we actually have to come to the table and say everything we would love, everything we fear, everything that we think is wrong with us, everything we're sad about, right? So that we can get past that gap and get to the thing we both would love to do.
Which is
Right.
have great intimacy,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
which
Mhm.
requires that good connection as well with your partner. So
Right.
being able to communicate and, like you said, experience all those other different forms of intimacy to bring you back to the physical intimacy.
Right. Right. Dr. Mia, I'm trying to be like you when I grow up.
I'm
We'll
trying to
find
be like you.
we'll find no, 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 ma'am. We trying to find. When I get me a business partner slash husband slash husbander slash intimate part. We'll figure we're gonna be on the same page. But we're gonna drop your link below this video just so if anybody is interested in just having a conversation, right, about what's happening in their own transformation in their own body, right? We think about transformation sometimes as like this thing that we get to choose to do to
Right.
be better, but we are transforming all the time, day by day, moment by moment. And I want people to be sure that they can call you, connect with you. So we'll drop the link to Me Bella Wellness underneath this video. I want to reiterate that Dr. Mia and I are having some Southern girl chat here, but Me Bella also serves men, right?
That's right. That's
Couples,
right.
because intimacy can happen alone, but it doesn't. We have intimate partnerships all the time.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
So one last thing, we got to ask you the question that we asked, and I feel like we kind of just touched on this. We have a question every season that we ask our guests,
Mm-hmm.
and this question comes from a quote by Don DeLillo, and he says that the family is the cradle of misinformation. So when you think about this, Dr. Mia, tell us a place in your upbringing that might have been misinformed. You might have gotten misinformed by your family, or something that you think is often misinformation that happens from your field and on.
So I think mine was more so. I think I was taught, even though the words may not have been said,
Hmm.
that intimacy was really for men and it was to serve and pleasure men. not
Wow.
remembering that God gave us all this gift and he made women's bodies such that we can definitely enjoy and enjoy intimacy just as much as men. So he created this act of intimacy for both men and women to enjoy. And I always remind people that your significant other is not responsible for your enjoyment, just like they're not responsible for your happiness. So communicating, understanding your body, learning about your body, and knowing that God gave us all this wonderful gift of the big O.
That's good. That's good. We know that families don't do it on purpose, right?
They
But
don't. They're trying to protect their girls and
right,
make sure we not fast,
right.
but that's not being fast to enjoy your partner and enjoy intimacy and bonding,
Yeah.
because it does bring you closer together.
Yeah.
Physical intimacy helps to create oneness. The
hmm
lack of physical intimacy and intimacy in general in a relationship divides the
Yeah.
relationship. So we want
Yeah.
to make sure we create that oneness through every form of intimacy.
I love it. I love it. Intellectual, relational, recreational, emotional, spiritual. Did I miss one?
And physical. Yep.
Physical. Oh, look, we talking about it. Yes, in the physical. Right, right. Excuse me.
Yes. Yes.
Dr. Mia, we are so grateful for your time. Thank you for all the things you're doing just to empower women to own their own bodies and
Yes.
to continue to not age just only gracefully, but greatly.
I
um,
know, right?
Enjoying every stage of life and not losing out on anything that makes us fully who we are. So we appreciate you. Again, y'all, this is Dr. Mia Cowen, who is the co-founder of Mibella Wellness Center in Birmingham, Alabama. If you are wanting to understand more about everlasting intimacy, we're going to drop the link right below this. And if you need to get on a plane, a train, or an automobile, don't miss out on the love and the intimacy that you deserve.
That's
We thank
right.
you for watching. Thank you, Dr. Mia. Y'all,
Thank
this is
you.
Wisdom Wednesdays. Yes, you got a last word for him. Tell him.
No, I said thank
Oh
you.
no, no, no,
Thanks
no,
for
no,
having
no.
me.
Thank you in
Oh
between.
yeah, one last thing.
Yes.
I did write a book about it. So me and Joseph wrote the book Everlasting Intimacy Till
Uh-huh,
Death Do Us Part.
uh-huh.
And it talks about like all the different forms of intimacy, the communication, and then how we can maintain everlasting intimacy. So go pick it up on Amazon.
Beautiful. We'll drop the link below this video too. So y'all, you can read about it. You can work on it. Let's make sure that our intimate relationships are strong and intact. Thank you, Dr. Mia, and we'll see y'all next week.
Thank you.